G'day, welcome to Budgets with Belle, and today we're baking with Belle. So yeah, that's, it's another hobby. What are you gonna do? So yeah, we're in my kitchen today. It's not like one of those kitchens that I see on YouTube all the time. It's a family kitchen. It's messy. There's stuff falling off the fridge, and that's just how it is. So you're just gonna have to deal. But yes, so what we're doing is having a look at this book here. So anyone in Australia really that has ever had a cake made for them in the 70s, 80s or 90s will probably recognise this book. It's an Australian Women's Weekly birthday cake book. My mum had it. It was literally held together by green knitting wool. So yeah, it's a staple really. But it was discontinued. They didn't make it anymore, and they had a release that came out at Kmart a couple of weeks ago, so I had to get it. So I decided that I'm just going to go through the book and one cake at a time make them just for funsies. So yeah, so I'm going to get set up and then show you my counter, and then we'll make some cakes. Okay, wait there. Okay, so this is the book. Alright, so my mum made me and my brothers and my cousins a whole lot of cakes from this book. So it's a bit of a nostalgia thing. I have made cakes for my boys from this book. So yeah, it's awesome. I change a couple of things, but it depends on what you like. So basically this book was made for busy mums. Really at the time they didn't even think about dads for that sort of thing, but busy mums and dads, it should be, who didn't necessarily have a lot of time or money but wanted to make a cake for the kids. So one of the main things is, if you have a look at the recipes in the book, they all have sort of a base recipe. So this one here, the butter cake, literally you can use a packet cake mix if you don't have time to actually make the cake. So it's completely up to you. If you have a packet mix, you can absolutely use a packet mix. The Vienna cream icing is very, very similar, extremely similar to American buttercream. It's slightly different. I don't think American buttercream has the milk component, but other than that, it's a lot of sugar with butter. Generally, that's not my favorite icing. Sometimes I will use it if I'm feeling really lazy, but I prefer the Italian meringue or the Swiss meringue buttercream, which is generally what I use. The ermine is not too bad either, especially in the heat. It seems to hold up quite well, but yeah, I don't mind the Swiss meringue buttercream, not like I make it every week, but yeah, that's what I prefer. There are lots of variations for the icings if you want different ones and things like that. So yeah, it has some really helpful hints, like how to color your coconut, the best ways to do that, and how to make cute decorations, which honestly nowadays most people just do with fondant anyway, but it's good to know in case you want to. It has how to do even make your own piping bags, which is cool, and things like making fluffy frosting, which looks very similar to most buttercreams, to be honest, most meringue based buttercreams anyway, with your egg whites. And it's even got how to make eyelashes for some of the cutesy ones in there. It's got some piping tips, but not that many. Cake board preparation it's got here. Most of that is honestly just common sense. How to make marshmallow flowers down the bottom. So I'll probably use that at some point. So yeah, there's lots of little things in here. This is the facts and figures page. So that has conversions and dry measures to mils and that sort of thing. Sorry, grams to ounces. And it has oven temperature, Celsius to Fahrenheit, and gas marks. It's not really used quite as much now, I don't think, in private kitchens, but yeah. And then it's got the metric, millimeter and centimeter conversions to inches, in case you've got an American recipe, and liquid measures, liquid mil to fluid ounces as well. So that is really, really handy. And this is the first cake. Let me zoom out. This is the first cake that I'm going to do. It's pretty cute, so I'm going to make the cakes today and then we'll decorate them tomorrow. So always a good idea to make the cakes today. So this is literally made with one pan. This is an 8-inch round pan and 3 inches deep. I know I'm in Australia and should be metric, but most pans and a lot of the recipes that I'm used to have it in inches. So I'm just used to that when it comes to pans. So yeah, this is an 8-inch round and a 3-inch deep pan. Now, this cake is 1 packet cake mix. So actually, if you look here, it actually says 1 packet butter cake mix. So that is because you absolutely can use it with a packet cake mix from the shop. Not a problem, absolutely, and it'll work great. If you want to make the cake, the recipe for the butter cake is over this side. So I will use that recipe just because I've got it and I don't mind. I don't use cake mixes. Don't know, I mean, they're just fine if that's what you've got, depending, I suppose, on your skill and your time and all that sort of thing. But I like to bake, so I'm going to bake. All right, so what I'm doing that is slightly different also is this one is saying 1 packet mix, or 1 of the butter cake mix for 1 pan, and that then decorate. I am actually doing 2 cakes because I'm going to layer it, and I'll do a double batch of icing. So I'm going to do 2 cakes, both in this size pan. So I'll use 2 butter cake mixes, so you use 2 packet cakes or butter cake mixes from the book. So 2 of these. Now, there's 2 ways to do that. You can make it in a pot, not a pot, in a bowl. So I've got a big Kenwood mixer that I've had for like 9 years, I think. So this is the bowl. So you can make it all, both, just double the quantities and do it in one bowl and then divide it between the 2. If you're doing that, I suggest weighing the cake tin and making sure that you add the exact same amount. So put the cake tin on your scale, tear it to make it to 0, and then add the cake mix. Do the same to both so they weigh the same. Or the other option is, if you have the resources, time, money, and can be bothered, what I do is I have 2 of the exact same mixing bowls, 2 of the same, so I make 2 cakes in tandem. So I'll add the ingredients to each bowl and then mix them, and yeah, I do it that way. It's just how I prefer, but it's absolutely not required. You can do it however you like. So one thing that I will say is, because I'm using the buttercream, because I'm not going to be using the Vienna cream icing, the colours are going to be much more pale. They won't be nearly as vivid. So yeah, that's fine though. I'm happy with that. I'll see the colours and adjust them as I go. Now, also with this one, it has quite a lot of licorice on it. It has a prune for the mouse. Well, I mean, I feel like in 2024 we can do better than that. So all the black details that are around here, I'm going to do in fondant. I'm considering piping the numbers just for practice because I'm not good at piping, so I'm thinking I might even pipe the numbers just for practice. But yes, and instead of a prune, I will use black fondant, and I will make some white fondant into pink for the ears and everything like that. And I might even make it a white mouse instead of a black mouse and have a little black eyes. Okay, so this is Hickory Dickory watch. That is what we're making. So yeah, that's my plan. Okay, so to start, the first thing anyone who's ever made a cake probably knows is prepare your tins. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. So wait there. I'm just going to grab a pencil and my greaseproof paper and I will be back. Okay, right, so best way to line a circular tin that I have found is, and look, keep in mind, it never has to be perfect because icing can hide a multitude of sins. So, all right, so I'm actually going to take this out of the, I actually probably am going to need more very soon. So I like to draw on it this way, just so that the fold, like the bend, because it's been on a roll, just helps it sit flatter. Okay, so line up your tin just like so. Now you can do it that way if you like, but I've got a rim on this one, so I actually am doing it this way for this one. Hand in the bottom, circle around. That was me closing the cupboard with my hip. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, this is how I do it. There are plenty of other ways that you can do it. This is how I prefer. Get your scissors and just cut it into a square to start with. Okay. Now, I am terrible at cutting, as you can probably see. That's a pretty wonky line. It is a running joke between some of my friends that if there's any arts and crafts that include cutting, do not give it to Belle to do. So what I do, because I'm a very bad cutter, I will, after I have drawn my circle, I will fold my paper in half, lining up the lines. Okay, lining up my curve of the circle, and then I will fold it in half again. So I'm basically quartering it. Okay, and line up your circles. So it's not necessarily going from corner to corner, it's going line to line. Okay. And then if you want to, depending, you can go again like that. Okay, and then if you want to double check that you've done it right, just grab your box, pop that in the middle, and that should be right in the middle, and your line right on the edge. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to do it this way. That's enough arts and crafts for me, I think. And then I'm just going to cut it. That's my circle, and when I do it, I always stick it the drawn on side down. Okay, and then if you want to trim it a little bit more, if it's just a little bit big, it's better to have it a bit big than a bit small. Okay, so just fold and trim it a bit closer. Told you I'm not very good at cutting. It's not my forte. Beautiful. Alright, that'll do. And I put it drawn on side down, and that's our round. So I will do that for the other bowl using the first one, the other tin using the first one as a template. And then I'll show you, I'll show you how to do the sides as well. So with the sides, you just want to get about that, okay, and that's where you're going to cut. So put the roll right on where you want to cut, okay, and then just cut straight down. Or if you're like me and know that you're not great at that bit, use your box, bring it out, line him up, and then use your metal teeth. But yeah, I generally will prefer to do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to go like that. And get it right as close as I can. And then that's where I'm going to cut. And just get it as straight as you can. It does not have to be perfect by any means, and I promise you, if I'm cutting it, it's not going to be perfect. Definitely far from perfect, but I will measure it, and if I'm happy with it, which I am, it's going to cover all the bits that I need it to cover. I'll use that as a guide, and I'll cut for 2 tins. I'll need 2 and a bit per tin. So I'm going to do 5 cuts. So I will be back once I've done that. Okay, so I just wanted to show you really quickly for the other base, because they're exactly the same size tin. I just cut a square or rectangle because, you know, as I said, couldn't cut to save myself. And then I'll quarter it and use this one, and just make sure that it's kind of covering you know, enough to fit, and you can just cut around that line there. Okay, so that's done, and you'll see this is the one I drew on, this is the one I didn't, and they're pretty good. Happy with that. Okay, so what I then do, because I don't trust cake tins, is I'm going to spray the bottom of the cake tin with my canola oil. You can use butter to stick it down, whatever you prefer. I just use the cheapy Coles canola oil. Just give it a bit of a spray and along the sides, because we're going to stick our paper to it. So it's that the spray oil is not to stop it sticking, it is to stick our paper. But honestly, this step's completely worth it, just in case you don't want your greaseproof paper not sticking and then you've got cake stuck. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that in. 1 and 2. Perfect. And then we're going to get our, I think we will have a little bit more cutting to do, but we're just going to try and get it so that it's top to the bottom. Okay, it's fine if it sticks out a bit. It's fine if it bends down a bit, because we're going to trim the cake once it's done anyway, as long as we don't have too much of a mess to clean up after we've turned our cake out. It can be a little fiddly, so the bits that overlap obviously aren't going to stick down, so just pop your tin on the side, give the other greaseproof paper just a little spray there, just to make him stick down a little bit better. So yeah, baking is one thing that Mum and I always did together, and yeah, it's something that I learnt a lot of that from her, and as I got older she learnt a lot of that from me actually. Okay, and then you'll see we're left with this gap here. So we just roughly, very roughly, measure how much we need from this one. Better to have a little bit more than a little bit less. Spray the greaseproof paper that's there already. And this one will go on there. And that is a well-lined tin. And it's not going anywhere. Okay, this one. Same again. And honestly, doing it this way just really prevents any sticking issues. And I know that it looks like a lot, but the worst thing is to spend all this time on a cake and then have it not turn out when you want it to, when you try and turn it out. And it's very frustrating. You just spend all this time on this cake that now you have to start again. And because, you know, it can take hours sometimes, you just don't want that hassle. Okay, and again, we've got our little bit that didn't get covered. So the offcut from earlier. Bit of a spray. And then he's on there. And that is our pans prepared. That's it. Just put them aside for later. And I try and clean up as I go, but I'm not the best at that. I normally have a mad rush of cleaning afterwards. Okay, so for our butter cake, I am just using the recipe here. It is not a complicated recipe. Let me have a look. So it's saying butter at room temperature. Now in Australia, it depends on time of year as to whether that's possible or not. So at the moment we are in mid-September, so we can comfortably use butter that has been on the bench for at least the morning, although it's nearly 30 degrees. So it's actually a little bit softer than you would want it, but it's kind of holding its shape enough for me to be okay with it, but it is quite soft. Okay. If it is too soft, or you think it's too soft, especially when you're doing the buttercream, then I would suggest popping it in the fridge for a minute or two. If it's too hard when you try and do it, again, microwave 10 seconds at a time, just until it's soft, and reposition it often. Okay, so butter at room temperature. We're gonna beat the butter with the vanilla until light and creamy. Everyone knows that step if you've ever made a cake before. Gonna add the sugar, beat until light and fluffy. Add the eggs one at a time, beating well after each addition. Stir in half the sifted flour. It gives it a bit more lift if you don't add it all at once. It makes it lighter. Half the milk as well. I use milk that was not in the fridge because you're using, so my eggs are room temperature, my butter is room temperature, my milk is room temperature. I find that if you have them all the same kind of temperature, there's nothing really cold going into something really warm, such as, you know, if you've got freezing or really cold milk that's just come out of the fridge and you're putting it in with softened butter, your butter is going to get harder because the cold from the milk is going to cool it down. So yeah, everything is room temperature for me. I just use the long life milk, cheap long life milk, that's fine. I don't use skim milk in cakes normally because I think that it does make a difference. It might be psychological, but to me it makes a difference. Then we're just going to mix it until smooth, pop it in the tin. The tin instructions are in the recipe, which I didn't even show you. I just did my thing. Okay, so I hope it's the right size tin. 20 centimeter, 8-inch round cake tin, perfect. Okay, so yeah, so that's what we're doing, and this will tell you, make it according to the directions on the packet, because you can absolutely make these quite nicely with packet cake mixes, 100%. All right, so I'm going to make the cakes. I might show a little bit of that. I might not, but I will probably fast forward it so we get through it faster. Yeah, let's get doing that. And because I'm making the two of them, I'll be making them in tandem. So I don't know about the butter that you use, but the butter that I use has its measurements on the side. So I find it really convenient. I still weigh it, especially when I need an unusual amount or a non-even amount. So I need 125 grams per cake for this one. So it shows 100 grams. So I will, yeah, do it that way. When I'm doing it, I will just cut through the paper and everything and just, that looks like 125-ish, and just cut right through the whole lot. Okay, and then I'll ziplock what's left. $1.29, that is not bad. $1.30, that's still not bad. So I'll just shave a little off. I'm a bit pedantic, but honestly, $1.29, $1.30 probably would have been fine, but I'm happy it's got the exact amount. So this one, because it's so soft, it doesn't matter quite so much, but generally I will just cube it slightly and put it in my mixing bowl that way. But because it's so soft, I'm really not bothered. It's a bit softer than I would normally use it, to be honest, but it's been warm today, and even with the aircon on, it's just a little bit softer than I would have liked. So that's fine. You can roll with it. So that's going in one bowl, and then I'll do 125 in the other bowl. Okay, just had a child interrupt. Well, I say child, he's 20, but you know, my child. Okay, so I've just got the butter in the bowls, and with the butter that's left, I'll be using that very, very soon anyway. So I'll actually probably put it in the fridge to harden up just a smidgen, but yeah. So I do have a brush that I keep in the kitchen for under my nails, because I do a lot with my hands in the kitchen. I don't know, I feel like that's a very European thing. My mother was Italian, my nonno, who was a chef, Italian, and yeah, I just remember growing up that all had their hands in the food. Just how we work, just how we work. Okay, so that is the butter in the bowls, and we want our vanilla in the bowl as well. So how much vanilla do we need? We need half a teaspoon. I think my eyes are too bad to read it from across the bench. Half a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, that's one, and I'll just show you. It looks like a very large bowl for not much in it. 1 and 2. Okay, I use vanilla extract. It's a bit stronger than vanilla essence. So if you've got a vanilla essence recipe and you've only got extract, I would use half the amount. So vanilla extract, generally double the amount for half the amount of extract for the amount of vanilla. So let's say 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, you would use half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay. Then we're just going to beat it until it's light and creamy. So I'm going to get, now there are 2 things you can use depending on how you want to do it. You can use a paddle attachment or you can use a whisk. Honestly, for the cake itself, it doesn't really matter overly. Generally, you'll get a bit more air with a whisk, I think, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to use a whisk just because I feel like it'll happen quicker. And I'm very impatient, so there's that. My mix master is old, like I am. It is good though, it is a worker. It's the workhorse of my kitchen. It has been used an awful lot. It is going on 10 years old, I think. 9-10 years old. It is a Kenwood. I'm trying to angle it so that you can see it with me being able to reach the dial still. It's not going to happen. So yeah, this is my mix master. It's got a lever at the back that'll spring the top up. Okay, I'm going to attach my whisk, which I super need a new whisk because this one's starting to come apart. But it still works just fine. Click it in. Okay. Now with my bowl, I'll just show you. So there are grooves in the bottom of my bowl that attach here and here. So I just turn it so that that's the bit that slides in and twist to lock it in place. Okay. And we get whiskey. I will generally, quite a few times actually, just wipe down the sides of the bowl as I'm going, just to make sure it gets a good mix. So yeah, I'm just going to speed up this bit and won't be saying much because it's too loud. Okay, so I'm just going to scrape down my bowl and then I'll let it keep going for probably a good 10 minutes. I want it quite light and quite fluffy. And because the butter was quite soft, yeah, I don't want it to melt much more than it already has. So yeah. Okay, so this is looking really good. It's really light. It's quite nice actually. So you want it quite pale. Just means that you've gotten it mixed really well. So I'll just give it one more scrape down and then I'll give it another couple of minutes and then I'll start adding the sugar. That vanilla smells really good. So I'm just going to get my little spoon holder. Okay, so the battery went flat. So all I've done is I got it to a really pale consistency, pale colour, nice fluffy consistency, and then I've added the caster sugar in. And now I'm just going to give it a bit more of a mix, just for a minute or two, not even that. And then I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. I'm just going to scrape down my bowl one time as well. So you can even hear that the sugar's in there. It's kind of more grainy. So yeah, the main thing is with your eggs, make sure they're room temperature. I've also got the oven on to preheat. So this book, if you're using a packet mix, use the guidance on the packet. If you're making the cake yourself, then I find I prefer it a little bit lower temperature for a little bit longer myself. So it suggests 190 to 200. I've got it on 180 in a fan forced, which you always need a bit less time in a fan forced. So yeah, temperatures about 10 degrees less in a fan forced. So 180, and it says for 35 minutes, but I'll check it at 25 minutes, and then I'll check it again at 30, and yeah, depending on how it's rising and what it's like. Okay, I'm just going to finish this up, and then we'll add the eggs. Okay, that is looking really good. So what I prefer to do is, with my eggs, I will crack them into a bowl, just because I'm completely phobic about getting a rotten egg. There is no reason for me to think that I will, but we all have our little foibles, and this is one of mine. So into a separate bowl. It also means if you do get some shell in there accidentally, it's pretty easy to get out. Just wet your finger and you'll be able to get it out. Okay, egg number 1. That's going to get in there, and then we are going to give it a really good mix for about a minute until that's fully incorporated before we add the other egg. It looks quite runny at the moment. Don't forget, we don't have our flour in yet. Okay, so camera went flat again. Profesh. Okay, so I've finished the first cake. I'm up to where I was with the first cake on the second cake. I've just let my camera charge for a little bit longer this time, and hopefully it'll get there until we've at least got them in the oven. Okay, so I've added both eggs, and as you can see, it kind of looks a little curdled almost. That's completely normal. It's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely fine because we haven't got the dry ingredients in there yet. So it's looking very sloppy and a bit of a mess, but trust the process. It'll be fine once we get our dry ingredients in there. Okay, so I have already sifted my 1.5 cups of flour, so I'm going to add that in. I'm going to add half of it in. So about half, just eyeball it. Try not to get too much on the bench, it's fine. And then half of the milk. Again, just eyeballing. Okay, and then we're just going to mix that up. Okay, and we're just going to scrape it down, and we really don't need to mix it overly. You could absolutely do this by hand if you wanted to. I'm just extremely lazy, really. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put in the rest of the flour. Okay. And then the rest of the milk. And then I'll give that a bit of a mix, a scrape down, and then a mix, and that's done. Okay, so that looks really, really good. It's a thicker batter than you might expect, than you might think or be used to. But yeah, it's a classic from my childhood, so I can't complain too much. And you can absolutely use, if you don't have a lot of time, or if you're not, you know, not comfortable in the kitchen or baking, then just pack it, mix it. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Just going to move my mixer this way a smidge. Grab my bowl off it. And grab my cake tin. Okay, and best way to do this is just get it all in one side of the bowl and push it out. As I said, it is quite a thick mixture. So yeah, we want to get it as even as possible, but with a thick mixture, it's not that easy. So the way that I find is I smooth it with a spatula and then I'll bang it on my counter a couple of times. Some of the batter just went flying off in the opposite direction. That is completely fine. I'll mop later. I make such a mess when I cook, truly, but I love it. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to push this to the edges. Okay, and as you can see, it's not looking particularly even currently. So I will do some banging. I'm going to mute it and yeah, because it will be quite loud. Okay, so just a few bangs and it's much more even than it was. And look, I know it doesn't look like there's a lot in there, but don't forget it's going to rise a fair bit. So these are going to go in the oven, 180 degrees. They say 35 minutes. I'll be checking it at 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and then 35 minutes, and I'll give it a bit longer. And basically a skewer or a toothpick, I prefer skewers, they're longer, or even a butter knife if it goes in and comes out clean. Then your cake is pretty much done. So I'm going to make these. They're going to be in the fridge overnight, and then I'm going to make a Swiss buttercream, I think, to ice them tomorrow. Okay, but that is it for now. I'm going to show you these when they're done and then ice them with you tomorrow. So I'll see you in a second, but it'll be about 40 minutes. Just quickly also, sorry, before I go, there's the other one. So they both look exactly the same. So yeah, let's see how they turn out. I'm excited. So it has been about 20 minutes and just having a look, and not quite done yet. Needs a bit longer. Can just tell by the colour. So I will check it in another 5 minutes. Okay, so another 5 minutes. These are looking pretty good now. I'm going to just pull them out and check them with a knife.
Hello. How is it looking? Oh, quite nice.
Good.
Ooh, drying my hands. Did you think I was going to touch it?
I was concerned just slightly.
I'm not either of my siblings. Stop. What? Mum.
wet. No, not at all. Look, no crumbs. I'm
Sounded
looking for
wet.
crumbs. It just sounded wet.
Hey, yeah.
Why did I put it back in, guys? Okay, so there we have them. All done. I will keep them in their tins for probably about 10 minutes and then I'll turn them out onto a wire rack to cool the rest of the way and ice them tomorrow. So I will show them when I turn them out. I will show you when I turn them out. Yep, so they've been out of the oven for about 10 minutes and I'm just going to turn them onto wire racks to cool down the rest of the way. Okay, so this is where we hope that nothing's stuck. Okay. And these are warm to the touch but not like too bad at the moment. So I'm going to try and do them both together. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go. I don't think I can do them. You might have to help me.
Just do them one at a time. Oh, I'm zooming in for some reason.
I don't want to do them one at a time. Oh, I have an idea. I got this.
It is impossible for me to help you.
It's fine. I got this. So clever. Okay. Like that. And like that. And then that. Okay.
Zooming in again.
Because your fingers are around there. That's better. There we go.
It's less stable.
Okay. Oh, look at that. Perfect. They smell good, eh?
That one looks darker.
This one was on the bottom, so I didn't rotate them, and that's what happens. Okay, but that's fine. That's all going to get cut off. Look at that. Done. And we will come back tomorrow to ice them.